Hey, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Apple's Art Studio. I'm Apples, otherwise known as Paula sometimes, and I'm honored to be on Tiny Pandora's Be Seen, Be Known Design Team 2019. We're going to be bringing you videos and tutorials on different things that we make, and there's several of us doing this, and Tiny Pandora has devoted a whole YouTube channel for our tutorials. So join us. Let's go back where the magic happens. Okay, this is my finished piece. It's come out of the oven, and I went on and strung it so I could show you some of the tips that I use on stringing this to make it a little bit easier. To begin with, I took some scrap clay from my triangles and made some round beads to put on here. So I've got some gold metal beads, a decorative black bead, the ones I made, and going down in size, there are the gold and black ones and the black ones all the way down to the end. The type of cording I used to string this, I used bamboo cording, and as you can see, it's really thin for one of these big beads and the hole in it. And the little trick I have for that is that you take a decorative bead cap, you put it in a pair of rubber pliers so you don't mar it. You squish it flat. Then you put it on the bead. Just like this. Squish it down a little bit. And I use Gorilla Super Glue Gel and attach it on there. And then, as you can see, the little hole there in the center fits this bead. So that way I'm able to get these different size holes beaded on this one necklace. Another thing that I did was, as you know, when you finish your beading, and actually here's my last bead, I put on a crimping tube, and these are so little I knew you wouldn't be able to see them, but let's see if I can get one out. Oop, yep, they went everywhere. A little crimping tube. Let me put it here and see if you can see it. There you go. And that also fits my bamboo cord. And I'll tighten it up against the last bead that I put on there. And you take your crimping pliers, and there's two different size not loops, but gaps here. And you crimp your crimping bead. If you've never done that before, there's videos on that. And then you take your crimp bead cover and put over top of it. And if you can see it, it's got that little gap on one side, and that's what you slide over your crimp bead. And it then looks just like another bead on there. So you're actually hiding your crimp bead with that. And you can take flat nose pliers and put that together. Another thing I did on the very end to be able to hook a clasp to this I'm not quite sure what these things are called. It's got the two sides to it, and it's got your little loop on top with a hole in it to add your jump ring to. And you put your cord in between these. And these are larger. I chose the larger one so hopefully you could see them. And I've learned, before you put your cord in, if you'll put one side of it down, and put your cord in there with a drop of super glue, and again I use Gorilla Super Glue Gel, it's easier to manipulate this other side that you fold over, and that's how your cord stays in there. These go flat. And if I had the right size for the right size crimp bead cover, you can also put a crimp bead cover over this, and it looks just like a bead again. And that's what I did right here at the end. Then I put my jump ring on, another jump ring, and a toggle clasp. I like to give enough room with the jump ring so you can actually hold on to the toggle going through the circle. Another little trick that I learned working with cords that fray, like this one has in the center there, and that just comes naturally from putting the end of your cording through a small hole. If you'll take a glue stick, and you can either put it on your surface, put it on your finger, whatever works for you, and take that glue stick and put it at the end of your cord before you start, and let it dry a little bit before you use it. Your cord won't fray as you go through the bead holes, and that way you don't have to stop and cut it off and try to work it again, and then you end up with your beads, your cording being too short. The other things I did on this complete set was I took, as my shiny coat, I took Sculpey clear, transparent, liquid clay. And I just put it on my beads. There's a piece. Put it on there. And I use my finger to help spread it out some. And where these are rolled up, you've got different layers on there. Just take a brush and go in and put your clear liquid clay on your grooves on there. And then you can take a wooden dowel. Don't use your metal rod because it's going to get hot. Take a metal dowel rod, and we're going to hit it for a little bit with a heat gun. Keep your heat gun sort of close, but keep it moving so you don't burn anything or scorch your bead or your liquid clay. And the liquid clay gives you a shinier shine than the TLC, the regular translucent clay. Now as you see, it's gone from a liquid to like a matte looking finish. And just a little bit longer, And you can watch this happen. It fascinates me every time I do it. You can actually watch it become shiny. Now your bead's going to be hot from your heat gun. The wooden dowel is going to actually hold the heat so you don't get burned. If you had this on a metal strip, it would get hot and burn your fingers while you do this. And there's your shine. And it's quick and it's easy. Just watch it and don't burn yourself with it. Now your bead's going to be hot and it's going to be a little bit more flexible than usual. So set it aside and let it cool down and it will harden back up. The earrings that I made to go with this set, if you'll remember, I cut out some pieces and put it on this metal rod. And these are my spiral earrings for this set. And I just put a gold and a black bead on top of my jump ring and my ear wire. So I made those to go with it. But I also made a post earring to go with it, and I want to show you how I finish my post on the back, because there's so many times I hear the questions, what glue do you use? I don't use glue. I take my bacon bond and I take my post earring and I put a little drop of bacon bond on my back of my earring. This one's not baked yet. And I set my post on there. I roll out a clay color matching the back of my earring on a number 8 or 9 on my atlas. I cut that out with a cutter that's going to fit it, just like this one did. And I put my earring down, I have my stud post in there, and I gently push down on my thin layer of clay. And the post is sharp, it'll poke right through it. I lay it down, and then I smooth it out and make sure there's no air bubbles underneath it. This way you don't need glue and it's not going to come off. So that's a better way of putting on a stud back. Now I made these holes a little bit larger than normal to hang my dangles from. And I use these type of cutters all the time. And they go from that size all the way down to, I don't even know if you could get a needle tool down that one. And these I use this size right here. And I poked them through so that I had a hole and that clay was removed from my surface here. If you just poke a hole through with a toothpick or a needle tool or something, when you poke the toothpick through, say, your clay makes a hole in your clay, but it also pushes out the rest of the clay around your toothpick. So you can get a distorted surface. It may raise up a little bit, or it can totally distort the whole shape of the hole you want. And so when you're cutting out holes, whether, on raw clay, make sure you're using a hole cutter and cut out the hole. Just don't use something to pierce through there. It's going to distort your shape of what you're working on. I put my jump ring through, as you can see here, and I'm beaded them. Put my little dangles on there. And these are little gold filigree balls that I put down here. But one reason I made these holes so large, I wanted to set in those holes these filigree balls. And I super glued them in there with the Gorilla Super Glue Gel. But it's just a little bit of a different look. And those balls aren't going to come out. And those beads are on top of there a little bit. And the other thing I did was when I made the cabochon and put my gold on there, my gold leaf, I cut a little tiny sliver of that gold leaf still, and I put it around my cabochon. And I put the black side up, which was the inside of the clay, and the goldish part is on the outside. And that way it gives a definition